The alien border world was quiet in a way that felt wrong. The sky stayed dim even during the day, and the wind carried a cold smell of metal and wet stone. At the edge of this world flowed a wide black river, slow but heavy, deep and deadly. No maps marked it as safe, no roads crossed it, and no one who lived nearby ever tried to pass it. The locals called it the river no one crossed. They said the water pulled things down, that the ground beneath shifted like it was alive. Some believed the river chose who lived and who vanished. Others simply stayed away and survived. Near this river lived a human boy. No one knew his real name anymore. He was an orphan, left behind during an old border conflict that no one talked about now. He slept under broken metal sheets and ate whatever he could find. Hunger was normal for him. Silence was familiar, and fear had become a quiet companion. The boy had learned early that asking for help only brought pain. Humans were rare here, and kindness was even rarer. Aliens passed him without looking, some with disgust, others with mild interest. To them he was a shadow, easy to ignore. Every morning he checked the river, not because he planned to cross it, but because it told him the day had started. The sound of moving water reminded him he was still alive. On this morning, the river sounded different, heavier, louder, impatient. As the boy moved closer, he noticed something on the far side. At first he thought it was debris caught between rocks. Then the shape moved, slow and weak. His breath caught when he realized it was a person. She was not human. Her skin carried a faint blue glow, dull like fading light. One of her legs was twisted at an unnatural angle, clearly broken. She tried to stand and failed, slipping closer to the rising water. The boy froze. Aliens and humans were enemies. That was the rule everyone followed. Stories said aliens killed humans without warning. Stories also said humans were weak and disposable. The alien girl looked young, not much older than the boy. Her eyes were wide with fear, not anger, not hate, just fear. She saw him too, and her body stiffened. She tried to crawl away, but cried out in pain. The river continued to rise, inch by inch. Cold water touched her injured leg, and she gasped. The boy's heart began to pound. He knew what the smart choice was. He could turn away, walk back to his shelter, and pretend he never saw her. Helping her meant danger. If alien patrols found him, he would be killed. If the river pulled them under, he would drown. If she lied and screamed for help, warriors would come. The boy stepped back once. Then he stopped. Something inside him refused to move further. He remembered being small and scared, left alone after the fighting ended. He remembered calling out and hearing nothing but wind. No one had crossed any river for him. The alien girl's strength was fading fast. Her breathing became shallow, and her hands shook as she tried to grip the rocks. The water reached her waist now, pulling at her weak body. The boy clenched his fists. He whispered to himself that this was stupid, that he was nothing, that no one would care if he vanished. Still, his feet moved forward. The ground near the river was slick and unstable. Each step felt like a risk. He reached the edge and tested the water with a piece of metal. The current tugged hard, strong enough to steal balance in a second. The alien girl watched him with confusion. She did not beg, did not speak. Maybe she had no strength left, or maybe she did not believe a human would help. The boy took a deep breath. His body was thin, weak from years of hunger, but his eyes were steady. This story is just beginning, and if you enjoy slow suspense stories like this, please gently consider subscribing to the channel so you do not miss what comes next. The boy stepped into the river. Cold pain shot through his legs instantly. The water pulled at him like a living thing. He fought to keep his footing, using stones and broken roots for balance. Halfway across, the river surged. The boy slipped, his knee slammed into a hidden rock. Pain flared, sharp and blinding. He nearly lost grip, nearly disappeared beneath the surface. He screamed once, not in fear, but in effort, using everything he had. He pushed forward. At last his hand touched solid ground on the other side. The alien girl stared as he reached her, disbelief written across her face. The boy did not speak. He simply reached out. Behind them, the river roared louder. Ahead of them, the unknown waited. And above them, the sky slowly began to change. The boy made his choice. and the river watched in silence. The boy reached the alien girl and stopped just a step away from her. Up close, she looked even more fragile than before. Her skin shimmered faintly, reacting to stress, and her breathing was uneven. She looked at him with clear fear, not knowing what he would do next. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The river roared behind the boy, reminding him there was no easy way back. The alien girl slowly raised one hand, palm open, a sign of warning in her culture. She spoke in a sharp, unfamiliar language, her voice weak but urgent. The boy did not understand her words, but he understood the tone. It was not a threat. It was a warning. She pointed at him, then at herself, then made a sharp slicing motion across her neck. Her eyes stayed locked on his, serious and afraid. Even without words, the message was clear. If her people discovered that a human had helped her, he would die. The boy swallowed hard. He shook his head slowly, trying to show he meant no harm. He lifted his hands, empty and open. He tapped his own chest, and then pointed back toward the river. His meaning was simple, even if his language was not. The alien girl watched carefully, studying every movement. She responded by touching the strange markings along her arm. They glowed faintly as her fingers traced them. Then she pointed upward toward the sky, where distant clouds moved unnaturally. The boy felt a chill. He had seen ships in the sky before. Alien patrols passed through this region often. If they came now, there would be no hiding. The girl tried to move again, forcing herself to stand. The moment she put weight on her injured leg, her body collapsed. A sharp cry escaped her before she could stop it. The sound echoed against the riverbanks, loud enough to travel. The boy reacted instantly. He rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was lighter than he expected, but tense, ready to fight if needed. For a second, she struggled, panic taking over. He spoke quickly, softly, even though she could not understand his words. His voice carried no command, no anger, only urgency. Slowly, her movements weakened. Pain overcame fear. As he held her, the boy noticed details he had missed before. The markings on her skin were not random. They followed perfect lines and symbols, carefully placed. Her armor, though damaged, was made of a material he had never seen, smooth and strong. This was not a common traveler. This was not a low-level alien. Something about her presence felt important, dangerous even. The boy hesitated, his heart racing. Helping her further meant committing fully. There would be no pretending this never happened. The alien girl looked at him again, her eyes softer now, filled with something close to confusion. She spoke again, slower this time, pressing a hand to her chest as she said a word. Then she pointed at him and repeated it. The boy did not know the meaning, but he sensed it was not an insult. The river surged suddenly, water crashing higher against the rocks. The sound snapped the boy back to reality. There was no time left to think. Carefully, he shifted his stance, ignoring the pain in his knee and the cold in his legs. He crouched and gently lifted her, positioning her across his shoulders. Her body stiffened in surprise, then slowly relaxed, trusting him despite everything. She made a weak sound of protest and shook her head. She pointed again toward the sky, fear returning to her eyes. Her people were hunters, warriors. They would not forgive this. The boy answered by tightening his grip and moving forward. His steps were slow but steady. Every movement sent pain through his body. Still, he did not stop. As they moved away from the riverbank, the ground became uneven. Broken stone and alien plants tore at his feet. The alien girl held onto him now, not by force, but by need. Halfway up the slope, the boy felt it. That strange pressure on the back of his neck. The feeling of being watched. He froze, listening. The wind carried more than water now. There was a distant hum, low and mechanical, barely audible. The alien girl felt his tension and turned her head slightly. Her eyes widened as she followed his gaze back toward the river. Across the dark water, far beyond where he had come from, something moved. Not debris, not shadow. The boy's breath caught, because whatever it was watching them. They moved away from the river as fast as the boy's injured body allowed. Each step sent sharp pain through his knee and ankle. Cold water had soaked into his clothes, making them heavy and stiff. Still, he did not slow down. The alien girl felt his body shake with effort. She had seen humans before, but never this close, never this weak, never this determined. When they finally reached a cluster of broken stone far from the riverbank, the boy collapsed to one knee. His grip loosened, and he almost dropped her. He caught himself at the last moment, gasping. The alien girl cried out softly, fear flashing across her face. He lowered her carefully onto dry ground. The moment he let go, his strength gave out. He fell forward, hands sinking into the dirt. His breathing turned rough and uneven. The alien girl stared at him in shock. His leg was bleeding where the river stone had cut deep. Blood soaked through the thin fabric he wore, dark and warm against the cold ground. He tried to hide it by shifting his body, but failed. For the first time, she truly saw his pain, not as an idea, not as a story, but as something real, shaking in front of her. And it was because of her. She reached toward him without thinking. Her hand hovered for a moment, unsure, then gently touched his arm. The boy flinched at first, then relaxed when he realized she meant no harm. She spoke softly, her voice filled with something new. Not fear, not warning, but regret. The boy did not understand her words, but he understood the emotion behind them. He shook his head slowly, trying to tell her it did not matter. That pain was nothing new to him. The alien girl looked down, her glowing markings dimming. She pressed a hand to her chest and spoke again, slower, clearer. Then she pointed toward the sky and made a wide motion, as if describing something vast and dangerous. She tapped her armor, then shook her head firmly. Her fingers traced a symbol near her shoulder, one that looked different from the others. Her expression hardened as she spoke. The boy listened carefully, watching her face, her hands, her eyes. Piece by piece, the truth became clear. She was running, not from humans, but from her own kind. Her clan was warbound, born and trained only to fight. Mercy was seen as weakness, disobedience as betrayal, and those who broke from their path were hunted without mercy. She looked at him directly when she made the final gesture, drawing a line across her throat, then pointing to herself, then to him. If they were caught together, she would be named a traitor, and he would be erased. The boy felt his chest tighten. He had known helping her was dangerous, but he had not imagined this. Not war, not clans, not the weight of something that could spread far beyond this river. He sat back against the stone, breathing slowly. His body hurt, but his mind hurt more. He was just an orphan, forgotten by everyone. How could his small choice matter this much? The alien girl watched him closely, waiting for fear, waiting for anger, waiting for him to pull away. Instead, he laughed quietly, a short broken sound. He shook his head and looked at the sky, as if the universe itself had played a cruel joke. He spoke softly. Words meant more for himself than for her. His voice carried tired honesty. He had nothing to lose. No family, no place, no future anyone cared about. The alien girl did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning, and it unsettled her deeply. In her world, lives were measured by rank and strength. In his world, survival was all that mattered. Yet here he was, bleeding and broken, still choosing to help. She shifted closer, careful of her injured leg. Her eyes searched his face, studying him like a mystery she could not solve. She had been taught that humans were weak, selfish, and dangerous. Nothing about him fit that lesson. The wind changed suddenly, carrying a sharp electrical scent. The alien girl froze, her head snapping upward. The boy followed her gaze. At first he saw nothing but darkening clouds. Then, far in the distance, a faint pulse of light flickered in the sky. Once, then again, the alien girl's face drained of color. Her markings dimmed almost completely. She whispered a single word, filled with fear. The boy's stomach dropped, because even without understanding her language, he knew what signal lights meant. They were being searched for, and whatever he had just started, there was no turning back now. The night passed slowly, stretching like it would never end. The boy and the alien girl hid among broken stone and twisted alien plants, barely daring to breathe. Cold crept into the boy's bones, and pain throbbed through his injured leg with every small movement. He pressed his back against the rock and stared into the darkness, listening for any sound that did not belong to the wind. The alien girl stayed close, her body tense, her eyes never fully closing. She knew this land better than he did, and that made the fear worse. Several times during the night, she stiffened suddenly, reacting to distant noises the boy could not hear. Each time, his heart raced, certain that warriors were already upon them. The boy wondered if this was how it ended. Not with a fight, not with escape, but with waiting. He thought about the morning. He had never planned for one. Most days he woke up only because hunger forced him to move. Now he wondered if dawn would even come for him. The alien girl noticed his shaking and reached out slowly. Her fingers brushed his sleeve, careful and unsure. When he did not pull away, she left her hand there. It was not comfort in the way humans understood it, but it was something close. The sky began to change hours later. Dark blue faded into gray, then into a pale, lifeless light. Dawn was breaking, silent and cold. The boy's chest tightened. Morning meant visibility. Visibility meant discovery. Then the ground trembled. At first it was light, like distant thunder. Then stronger, shaking loose small stones around them. The boy pushed himself up, panic flooding his mind. The alien girl's face drained of color. Her eyes widened, reflecting the growing light above. She did not scream. She did not run. She only whispered, her voice flat with certainty. They found us. The vibration grew stronger. The boy felt it in his teeth, in his chest, in the ground beneath his hands. A low hum filled the air, deep and powerful, unlike anything he had heard before. He looked up, and his breath left him. The sky was no longer empty. Dark shapes broke through the clouds one by one. Then dozens more followed. Massive alien ships hovered above the land, blocking the rising light. 50. The boy did not know how he knew the number, but he felt it. This was not a search party. This was an army. Each ship moved with perfect control, forming an organized pattern. Blue and white lights flashed along their hulls, cold and precise. The sound they made was not loud, but heavy, pressing down on the world. The boy's legs nearly gave out. His mind raced, searching for any possible escape. There was none. No cover large enough. No distance far enough. He thought of the river behind them. The river no one crossed. It felt like a lifetime ago. The alien girl shifted beside him, her posture straightening despite her injury. Fear was still there, but something else rose with it. Acceptance. Resolve. She adjusted the broken armor on her shoulder and looked up at the ships. The markings on her skin flickered weakly, responding to the presence above. She had known this moment would come. She had only hoped the boy would not be here to see it. The first ship descended slowly. Dust and debris swirled violently beneath it. The ground shook harder, forcing the boy to brace himself against the rock. One by one, the others followed, landing in a wide circle, cutting off every possible direction. The sound of heavy metal touching ground echoed across the plain. The boy felt very small, smaller than he had ever felt before. He was an orphan, a nobody, standing against forces meant for worlds and wars. The alien girl turned her head, slightly toward him. Her eyes met his, steady despite everything. She spoke again, quietly, her tone filled with meaning he could not yet understand. The ships opened. Light spilled out onto the ground, sharp and blinding. Shadows moved within the openings, tall and armored. The boy's heart hammered at his chest. This was it. This was the price of kindness. The first alien warrior stepped onto the ground. Then another, and another. Their armor gleamed under the weak dawn, weapons held with calm confidence. 50 warriors, trained for battle, surrounded a wounded alien girl, and one injured human boy. The wind fell silent. The land held its breath. As the warriors advanced, the boy realized one terrible truth. Whatever happened next would change everything. The alien warriors moved with perfect control. Their boots pressed into the ground as one, heavy and final. The boy felt their eyes lock onto him instantly. Cold, measuring, uninterested. Weapons rose in smooth motion. Barrels aligned with his chest, his head, his heart. To them, He was nothing more than a fragile shape, a weak human who did not belong here. The boy did not run. He could not. Pain locked his leg, and fear locked his breath. He stood there, small and shaking, waiting for the end. The alien girl sensed a shift before he did. She felt the killing intent move through the formation. Her eyes widened, and without thinking, she acted. She stepped forward, placing herself directly between the warriors and the boy. Her injured leg screamed in pain as she moved, but she did not stop. She spread her arms wide, shielding him with her own body. A sharp command rang out from the warriors. Several weapons charged instantly, light building at their cores. The boy stared in shock, unable to understand what she was doing. She was protecting him. She spoke loudly now, her voice cutting through the air, strong despite the fear, clear despite the pain. She pointed back at the boy, then struck her chest with her fist. Her markings flared weakly as she spoke faster, more urgently. She made the motion of drowning, then pointed to the river. Then she pressed her hand flat over her heart. The meaning was impossible to ignore. This human saved my life. The warriors hesitated, just for a moment, but that moment changed everything. Confusion rippled through their formation. Weapons remained raised, but fingers tightened instead of firing. They looked at each other, then back at her. This was wrong. One of the warriors stepped forward, larger than the rest. His armor carried deeper markings, symbols of rank and command. He studied the scene in silence. A crippled member of a high clan, standing in defense of a human. He spoke sharply, his voice amplified and cold. The alien girl answered without hesitation. Her tone held no shame, only truth. The boy watched their exchange. He understood nothing of the words, but he felt the weight behind them. This was not just about him anymore. The commander's gaze returned to the boy, not with anger, but curiosity, as if seeing something unfamiliar for the first time. Humans were known to beg, to bargain, to betray each other for survival. This one did none of those things. He stood there wounded, silent, and unarmed, having crossed a deadly river for someone he did not know. The alien girl refused to move, even when ordered, even when threatened. Her body shook, but her stance held firm. The warriors had been trained for war, for conquest, for domination, not for this. Their strength meant nothing against a choice like hers. A powerful alien placing her life between steel and a human orphan. The HFY truth began to settle quietly among them. Humans were weak in body, but something else drove them. Something dangerous. Something unmeasurable. The commander raised one hand. A silent signal. Weapons lowered slightly, not fully, but enough. The boy felt a shift. Felt the moment stretch thin. This was the edge between death and something else. The alien girl finally lowered her arms, exhaustion overtaking her. She nearly fell, and the boy caught her without thinking. Once again, human hands held alien life. The warriors watched closely, and for the first time, none of them fired. The alien commander stepped closer, his armor heavy and marked with symbols of rank. The ground seemed to quiet beneath his feet, as if the land itself was listening. He looked past the alien girl and focused on the boy, not with anger, not with hatred, but with sharp attention. When he spoke, his voice was deep and steady. The words were translated by a soft mechanical tone that filled the air, clear enough for the boy to understand. Why did you help her? The question hung between them. The boy felt every eye turned toward him. 50 warriors, trained to kill without hesitation, waiting for a single answer. The alien girl stiffened, fear flashing across her face. She started to speak, to interrupt, to protect him again. But the commander raised one hand, stopping her. The boy took a slow breath. Pain pulsed through his leg, his body shaking slightly, but his eyes stayed calm. He did not think long. There was nothing to calculate, nothing to prepare. He answered simply, because it was the only truth he had. She was going to die. The translator repeated the words in the alien language. A murmur spread through the warriors, low and uncertain. The commander did not move. He tilted his head slightly, studying the boy more closely. Then he asked again, his tone sharper now. You knew helping her would bring death to you. The boy nodded once. Yes. Another pause. The air felt heavy. The alien girl clenched her hands, her body tense with fear. The commander's eyes narrowed. Then why? The boy swallowed and shrugged weakly. His voice did not rise. It did not shake. I had nothing to lose. The words were simple, almost quiet, but when they were translated, something shifted. The warriors stiffened. Several glanced at each other in confusion. In their culture, every action was weighed by rank, power, and gain. Kindness was a reward of strength. Mercy was something only the powerful could afford. This boy had none of that. No armor, no clan, no future. And still he chose to act. The commander stepped back slowly. His gaze moved from the boy to the alien girl, then back again. He had seen bravery before. He had seen sacrifice. But those acts always came from warriors with something to protect. A name. A legacy. This human had nothing, and that made his choice unsettling. The commander turned to his warriors and spoke rapidly. Voices replied, sharp and disciplined. The alien girl listened, her face pale, her breathing shallow. She knew this moment mattered, not just for her, but for what humans would be seen as from this point forward. The boy stood quietly. He did not beg. He did not argue. He simply waited. At last, the commander raised his hand again. Silence fell instantly. He faced the boy once more. This human will not be executed. The words echoed across the plain. The alien girl's eyes widened. The boy barely reacted, as if he had already accepted whatever came next. The commander continued. This act was not ordered. It was not demanded. And it was not done for reward. He paused, letting the meaning settle. In our history, such choices shape the future. Slowly, deliberately, the commander lowered his weapon, placing it against the ground. One by one, across the circle, alien warriors followed. Weapons powered down. Energy lights faded. Steel met soil in perfect silence. The boy realized then that something irreversible had just happened. The sound of war had stopped, not with a battle, but with a choice. The silence after the weapons were lowered felt heavier than any battle sound. The boy stood frozen, unsure if he was still alive or simply dreaming. Around him, 50 alien warriors remained still, their posture no longer hostile, but respectful. The alien commander stepped forward again, slower this time. His gaze rested on the boy, not as a target, but as something rare. He spoke, and the translator carried his words across the open land. This human acted without order, without power, and without expectation of survival. The commander turned slightly, addressing his warriors and the wounded alien girl. In our history, such acts are remembered. 2 warriors approached carefully, not with weapons, but with medical tools and light armor pieces. The boy tensed instinctively, but the alien girl placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was steady now, reassuring. They treated his injured leg first, sealing the wound with advanced technology. Pain faded into a dull ache, then into nothing at all. The boy stared in shock as he stood without collapsing. For the first time in his life, someone had healed him without asking for anything in return. The alien girl was lifted gently onto a support platform, her broken leg stabilized, her breathing finally calm. She looked at the boy and allowed herself a small smile, a real one, not born of fear. The commander raised a small metal symbol, engraved with the same marking seen on high-ranking armor. He placed it into the boy's hands. The object was warm, almost alive. This mark grants protection, the translator said, across all territories of our clan. A murmur spread among the warriors. This was no small honor. This was recognition. The boy looked down at the symbol, confused and overwhelmed. He had never owned anything that mattered, never been given a future. The commander continued, "This human is no longer considered alone. He stands under our record, and under our memory." Those words settled deep into the boy's chest. For the first time, the weight he carried did not feel empty. The alien girl spoke then, her voice soft but clear. She addressed her clan without fear. She told them she would return, not as a runaway, but as someone who had seen another way to be strong. The warriors listened, and none interrupted her. The ships began to lift slowly, one by one. The sound was no longer threatening. It felt like closure. Before leaving, the commander turned back once more. His eyes met the boys. Strength is not always measured in conquest. Sometimes it is measured in what you choose to save. The sky cleared as the ships vanished into the clouds, leaving behind a quiet plain, a healed human boy, and an alien girl who no longer stood alone. The boy watched the horizon long after they were gone. Something inside him had changed. Not his past, but his place in the universe. He was still human, still small, still fragile. But now, he was remembered, and far beyond this world, among stars and warbound clans, a simple truth had been recorded. Humans are not the strongest beings in the universe, but their hearts can move forces far greater than strength ever could.